We'll get this party started. Welcome to our October advisory meeting for Broadband Consortium Pacific Coast. I'm Shelby Arthur, Tri-County lead for BCPC. And I'm going to do I think there's a few people on the call that maybe haven't joined us in a while or are joining for the first time. So we'll do a quick introduction of the team. And run through the agenda. And as we're doing that, if you could please introduce yourselves in the chat, your name, your organization and role, where you're at, where you are geographically, what areas do you serve, what's your focus area. It's great for us all to know who's on the call. We also download the chat for our records to see who we are reaching in terms of the information we're providing and giving out. So, Bill, you want to lead off the introductions of our team members, our VCPC team?
It would be a pleasure. Bill Simmons, down in Ventura County, Broadband Consortium.
Thanks. And Vivian? I saw you here.
Vivian Vasquez from Camarillo here, and I am the Ventura County lead for the Broadband Strategic Plan.
Tim Tierney, are you on the call?
I'm right here. Hello, everybody. My name is Tim, doing GIS and mapping for the Broadband Consortium.
Thank you. And Malika, would you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Malika Ohm. I am working with BCPC on some of the digital equity initiatives that the organization is involved with, and I am based out of Santa Barbara.
Thanks. And we are waiting for our SLO County BCPC team to arrive, and I'll give them the opportunity to introduce themselves when they get here. So in the interest of time, just to go over our
1, 2, 3, 4, test 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, we can hear you. Yep.
Oh, thanks. Sorry.
We'll go through the agenda quickly, and while I'm going through the agenda, go ahead and if you haven't already, please put your name, your organization, where you're tuning in from, and what clients you serve in the chat. We will start out our agenda today. This is a little deceptive. I'm going to give an update about CPUC FFA applications, which will lead us into a roundtable discussion. We're leading with the FFA apps because it's breaking news almost, and of great interest, and hopefully that will spur some discussion and lead some of you to provide updates from your organizations. Then we'll lead into some digital equity updates with ACP. Followed by 2 conversations centered around BEAD, the upcoming funding source, probably to be released spring 2024. The rules are in the process of being drafted and approved, and the final initial proposal, it's funny, for BEAD is due at the end of this calendar year. So it's in progress, and your input and insights are valuable to shaping the way BEAD funds will be distributed in our state. So we, in honor of Cybersecurity Month, the month of October, we invited Dave Hagan from TPX to join us to talk a little bit about linking BEAD cybersecurity requirements with best practices. Some of this might be review for some of you, but I believe we can always learn something new for your personal cybersecurity protection, but also for organizational and aligning with the BEAD requirements. And then if we have time, we have some discussion around BEAD requirements for US manufactured materials. And there's a waiver that was released in August, September. I think public comment was due in September on that waiver to define which parts of the materials required for deploying broadband will be exempt from the Buy America requirement for infrastructure funds. So should we have time, we'll get to that discussion as well. So leading off with what we know at the consortium about FFA applications, quick disclaimer, we of course don't know everything. We are happy to have all of you on this call because sometimes you have some insight that we aren't privy to. And so if there's anything in this update that you have additional information on, we're really excited to hear from you, and we'll lead into the roundtable discussion with that information. So as a recap, FFA funding, the last mile federal funding account, FFA, was targeted to reach unserved households in our Tri-County area. We have the number of households that were unserved, listed as unserved on the CPUC map for each county, and the allocation that was allotted for each county. So it was $5 million baseline for each county, plus about $1,600 per unserved resident. So given these numbers that you see on our chart in the upper part of the screen, we had an incredible oversubscription to the funds available for our counties. This is really great news because it shows that there is not only demand, but interest in investing in our region. It also means that there's great competition. So there will be a lot of competition for these funds. Statewide, there were 483 applications for FFA, not FAA. 483 applications requesting $4.6 billion out of the $2 billion that's available in that fund account. So as you can imagine, CPUC staff are working diligently to get through all those applications. And I think some of their timelines for processing have been slightly adjusted. We did last Friday receive a chart of the projects that were proposed. This included only the applicant name, the title of the project, and how much they were requesting. As you can imagine, some of these projects had titles that were a little more obscure than others. So we did our best to identify which projects were aligned in our region based on what we knew, because we had worked with the providers or the entities that were applying, or which we identified because they stated the region or the name of the location in their project title, and we were able to match it with our county. So what we found is that I didn't update my number. I believe 19 applications actually requesting 107.7 million in SLO County. Out of 22 million, that's a pretty competitive pool of applications. In Santa Barbara County, we identified 7 applications requesting 35.7 million, and in Ventura County, 8 applications requesting 47 million. On October 23rd, that's next Monday, the actual project summaries will be posted, and we'll be able to do a deeper dive and see what projects are really truly within our region. Challenges to any of the information contained in all of these applicant projects are due within 28 days of the public posting. So they're considering 28 days from October 23rd, as long as CPUC staff hits that milestone for posting the project summaries. And with that update, I do want to kind of open it up to the floor here. Any comments on applications? We're really interested to hear from applicants themselves on the process, challenges or barriers that you face that you wish could have been fixed, successes. If you want to share about your project, we'd love to hear it. If you have questions for the roundtable, we would love to hear them and crowdsource some information here. But if you have other updates from your industries or from your region, we're also happy to include those. So I will pause and take down this PowerPoint presentation so we can see each other and open up the floor for discussion. If anyone wants to take off, Brian, yes.
Yeah, I'll start, since I've been asking the last few months if anyone for Ventura County was planning on going besides the county of Ventura and the city of Ventura. But now, since it's too late to, add, applications are in and the list is coming out on Monday. Is there anyone on the call who, I'm curious what those other Ventura County projects are? And also, I promise I won't try to challenge any of those who speak up.
What I can share, Brian, is that we saw applications come in from AT&T, the City of San Buenaventura, County of Ventura, Frontier, and Spectrum, all listed Ventura County projects.
Okay, that all makes sense. Thank you.
Sure. George?
Hi, good morning, everyone. It's nice to be here, and I was hoping Mitchell Cameron was going to be with us. I'm unsure if he is or if he isn't. But something a little unique happened in the city of Ventura on October 9th, and it's been a long time coming. And I just wanted to give a credit to Mitchell Cameron for his perseverance through these years in carrying the broadband conversation through the 3 or 4 city council members, the Thomas Fire, COVID, the reemergence through COVID, a turnover in city managers, and also give credit to the new city council and the new city manager for the submission of a grant application and approval. And I think Mitchell had a big hand in it, working with VCOG and formerly Digital West Astound and the county. And it looks like those efforts have been aligned with the regional effort. And I just have to give a lot of praise to Mitchell for all of his efforts and appreciation. So I don't know what else I can say other than, carrying this conversation, working with Bill Simmons, going back since 2014. And the conversation has pivoted for a lot of reasons. And, Jory Wolf has been involved, Brian Chung, and the group has changed and evolved quite significantly. And it's really great to see the progress and the progress this group is going to make for the future of the generations to come, and the future of the economic impact and prosperity, which will outlive us all. So thank you very much, and thanks to Mitchell.
Thank you for the update, George, and thanks for your efforts. We know that you also have been putting a lot of effort into that as well. Carrie?
Sure. I'll give you an update on what we're doing. After all the changes in the last 3 months of the Golden State Network routes, we're reviewing the final draft right now of our Northern Santa Barbara County Fiber Ring and Business Plan. We will have our Econ Alliance board review it later this month, and then we'll start briefing the county, SPCAG, the consortium, and the cities in early November. I do have a couple of slides if you would like for me to be able to share those.
Love a good slide. Good visual for a project like this.
Okay. Can everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Let's see, I need to move it a little bit here. Okay. So the original EDA grant was for us to try to create a redundant loop. And so while Teleworks has worked within the criteria of the Golden State Network and changed it, the green and the red represents the current understanding of the route. And we asked Teleworks to go ahead and define changing the loop. So the estimates are for going from Lompoc to Buellton. If we could add 16 miles to that, it would run about 16.4 million. We want to get up to the northern part of the base for a pop there from Lompoc to the northern base. They can come in from the southern route, the railroad, to put a pop in at the southern part of the base. So from Lompoc to the main entrance to Vandenberg, that's 10 miles and 9.6 million. And then to complete the loop, we want to be able to have an estimate of the 8 miles to go from Santa Maria, the 166-101, over following 166 over to the Highway 1, and that's $4.4 million to do that. And I do have a couple more slides that just kind of break down the cost. We won't go into too much detail, but you can see the 15.4 and how that's broken down: highway segments, middle mile spurs, laterals to the businesses. And again, that was for the Lompoc to Buellton. And then Lompoc to Vandenberg, 9.6 highway segment, middle mile spurs, laterals to the contractors. And then finally, Santa Maria to Guadalupe, the final 6 miles or 8 miles, I'm sorry, 4.4. So that's all I wanted to share with you today, Shelby. Okay, we're making progress, and we do have what we need perhaps to complete the loop at some point if we get additional funding from EDA or another funding source. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That's really exciting. I do have one question. You might have said this
Sure.
and I missed it.
Sure.
Are any of these segments included in the current FFA applications that you know of?
Not that I'm aware of at
Okay.
this point. Okay,
Thank you.
so let me stop share here, or you can stop me. You should have it back.
Any other questions for Carrie about the North County Fiber Ring project? I know that idea has been brewing for so long, and it's great to see how far it's come, but now we've got
Perhaps a decade. Yeah,
numbers.
yeah.
Yeah. Great. Well, I want to invite some folks to give updates from their counties. Start with the VCOG LATA grant project. Are we ready for that one?
Yeah, absolutely. I can give an update on that, and Bill, feel free to add anything else that I may have missed. Things have been going full steam ahead. So we've had 2 VCOG working group meetings so far, and we have our 3rd meeting this coming Tuesday. Bill and I have been meeting with each city and with the county. So I think we've had 6 meetings so far, and we'll continue meeting individually with each. And we're preparing for the rest of the year, which we'll be doing a lot of data collection around speed tests, and also presenting to councils. And then at the beginning of next year, doing a lot more of the community engagement piece of this work.
Okay. Anything to add, Bill?
I think she covered it extremely well. And we're moving. It's exciting, and we're getting an awful lot of positive feedback.
And for everyone on the call that doesn't know, to put this in context, this, having this regional strategy that is in the works that they're working towards developing in collaboration with all the municipalities and the county, that will, finishing that will actually, complete the trifecta for our region, where we will have strategy plans for each of our counties in place that can be referred to. And it's a great start to that regionality and interconnection to improve resiliency in our region and to close the digital divide. Tim, did you have anything you wanted to add in terms of mapping and the data that you're seeing come out of that project?
Sure. Shelby, if I can share my screen, I'll just page through some of the maps I'm making in support of what Bill and Vivian are doing in their outreach. And let me get my proper tool up here. I will share my screen. Okay, there we are. And there. Okay, hi guys. So Tim here doing a mapping support. And what I'm doing is I'm obtaining map data coming from a variety of sources, city and county level repositories, and also state level and also from a CPUC and the FCC, and bringing these many data sets together to try and provide a repository of resources that will help everybody come to a common understanding of what the facts on the ground are and where we want to take things down the road through this funding. And so just to give you a sample of my recent work in support of the outreach that Bill and Vivian have been doing, I've developed a set of maps particular to municipalities in Ventura County, and I'll probably be developing more maps along this line. And here's an example of a few of them. So here we see Moore Park with, you'll see there's a lot of orange on this map. Okay, this and spots of green as well. This is indicating businesses and residences at different service levels, according to what the telecom providers are reporting to the FCC. And then with orange being good and green being very good. And then on the map, you'll see a number of red diamonds. Those red diamonds fall into the other category, with, in many cases, these being unserved areas, but for a few of them, they may be getting served, but wirelessly, as opposed to installed fiber or in the ground. And sorry, let me, and here, whoops, where'd my Moore Park go? I just lost it. Okay, and then here's the same Moore Park map again, just with a lighter background, just so you can look at the exact same data, but in a different context. And then paging through this, so that was Moore Park, and then Santa Paula, Ojai, Ventura, and Camarillo. And in the case of these maps, you'll notice, like I said, that orange is good, green is very good, and there's not too many of the diamonds, representing the points of concern. But this data, this is coming from, again, from the FCC, and the FCC is getting the data directly from the telecoms as to what they're reporting, and of course, a lot of people are not taking the veracity of this data at face value, and there's a challenge process. If for those who think or know that data is being overreported, you can challenge this, and that will lead to updates in the data being added over the course of time. And so in addition to these maps that I've been developing for the individual municipalities, what's important to know is that the data layers that you're seeing here, of which there's about a half dozen in view right now, though in the overall repository, I've got many dozens of data layers, and these data layers are at a county-wide or even many times a statewide extent. Okay, and so every one of these city views that we're seeing is just a zoom in on data layers that span far beyond the limits of the map. And so from this body of data that I have, many dozens of layers in total, there's a lot of different things that can be done, and different things to be focused on, and details that can be brought out. And it really has to do with the individual needs of the projects we're pursuing and our different constituents. And so the message I want to leave you with is that myself as the technician, and the software tools I have, and the data sets, all of these are a resource that the consortium is putting on the table for common use to develop whatever products we need to support what we're up to. And so I would encourage everybody to reach out if you have ideas for what we can do here, or ideas for other data sets that maybe I ought to be gathering. And I'll be very responsive to anybody who wants to engage with me, because my function is to really serve you all. And so I invite you to be in touch with me. And I can be reached, if you don't know how to reach me directly, I can always be reached through Bill or Shelby. Thank you. Now,
Anyone in Ventura County that has questions about the project or comments? Any input?
Shelby, Terry's not here and Mitchell's not here, but Magellan can represent the work that's being done at Ventura County as well as the city of Ventura. Will Morat is on the call with me, also from Magellan and Trust, and has been leading the effort for the county and for the city. And Will can share a little bit of an update, but please know that both of the projects did submit FFA applications as part of the 47 million for Ventura County. The city of Ventura submitted just under 11 million, and the county submitted just over 20 million. Will, I'll leave it to you to present an update.
Update on one or both, or
whichever you wish to start with.
The county put in the grant application, and so did the city. I want to say the counties. Well, it's on the list that Shelby has. And both of them are continuing to engage with the private partners that they've selected to an RFP and are negotiating those points. I think that might have been what George was alluding to. And we anticipate they're both going to move forward with those partnerships over the next couple of months as the grants are being reviewed. But I would just say, like many others on the call, I think everybody has an eye on. Sorry, my microphone was in the wrong spot. I hope you could have heard me. Most of the like most people on the call, I think everybody's looking with an eye on all the future grants as well, and that the model has sort of been laid out for how public-private partnerships could work, how municipal public networks can work and be funded. And so I think FFA was just kind of the first step, and anticipate these partnerships will go forward, looking for funds through CASIF in the spring, through BEAD and all the other options to try to reach the entire community and not just one particular grant's focus.
Thank you, Will.
I'd like to piggyback on what Will's just said. He had 2 or 3 words that really piqued my interest, and over the years now, he used the word model. And it's a very good word, in that this collaboration that is occurring is something that's going to be very new. The fact that we do have public participation, the fact that we do have collaboration, this is something we've been talking about. It's a new model, it's a new way to do things, and it's starting. The other thing he talked about is, the fact that there are partners involved. This is not one company, it's not one entity, but it's a host of entities or partners in these collaborations. I think you're going to see a lot more of that. And finally, I totally agree with him. And this is the first wave. We're oversubscribed by a factor of maybe 100% when you look at all of the bids that are in there. Get ready. This is the first of many waves to come. Get in line. That's the message that I would want to put out to the industry is, we have gone through a significant change in the way things occur. Get ready. It's going to pick up speed, and it's going to be more of the same.
I think that's interesting, Bill. Both points from you and Will. And that these are competitive processes, searching for partners between the public and the private sectors. And so we do encourage the telcos to pay attention to these RFPs when they do come out. These are great opportunities to capitalize not only on public funds, but also the public partnership, which can expedite construction, which can help in community building and getting the word out for the services that are going to be made available and then are available. There's quite a bit to be gained in these partnerships.
Thanks. Thank you for the ringing endorsements of the public-private collaboration that we are seeking through this group. I'm going to move us up into Santa Barbara County for just a couple updates. I see Fred Luna on the call. I'm hoping I can call him out to give us a little bit of an update. We did have, I'll introduce it. We do have a broadband strategic plan in Santa Barbara County, and SBCAG is the shepherding it into existence on behalf of the county of Santa Barbara. And did work with Golden State Connect Authority to submit an FFA application. Fred, do you want to give an update on that? Anything about the process, where you're at? Anything you want to share? You saw your mic come off, but we're not hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, there you are.
Yeah, okay. I just got a new computer, so I have to reset all my virtual settings on the devices. Yeah, so like you said, SDK is partnering with the county to implement based on priorities that were set in our broadband strategic plan for Santa Barbara County. Some of the initial steps we've taken. So we do have a local agency technical assistance grant with the county. And that has focus on three priority tasks, some high-level design, development of a programmatic EIR, and then establishment of the governance structure for the region. And so we do have some recent updates on each of those. Shelby mentioned the FFA application in our partnership with Golden State Connect Authority. So that was submitted for 4 of those priority locations that were in the broadband strategic plan. The city of Guadalupe, Casmalia is in the unincorporated part of Santa Barbara County, Los Alamos, and the Cuyama, New Cuyama area, which is out eastern part on Highway 166. For the most part, those 3 of those locations are supported with the statewide network that's we've seen as final to date. And then Los Alamos is hopeful of being able to be supported in the future. So that being said, we are also going to move forward with trying to implement some of those other applications, or at least get ready for additional funding opportunities in the future. So that would be releasing an RFP for some additional high-level design for some other areas in the county, and then doing our programmatic EIR for the county. And then this morning at our board meeting, the board gave staff direction to work with the county and local agencies on the JPA structure, the Joint Powers Authority, with SBCAG being the kind of the entity responsible for broadband implementation in the county. So there's an update, Shelby.
Thank you, Fred. And that's really great to hear that the county gave, or that your board gave you that direction to power forward with the JPA. I know that we were hoping that's what would happen. That was what was recommended in the strategy plan. But that's great news to hear that that's
they
moving.
continue to reference that document, the board members, and they're very appreciative of all the work that BCPC did along with our partners to get that in place as our reference document. And so they continue to build upon that, and very excited about next steps.
Anyone have questions about Santa Barbara County or anything? Bill?
I just have an observation, and that is, kudos to Fred as well as to Carrie. We were talking about collaboration. The broadband strategy talks about this fully redundant network that has all of these loops in it. And, the state has not been putting that in, and Carrie's graph shows you where down the line, the state's just coming in and doing kind of a half moon arc. And it's up to us at the local level to make up the difference. And in terms of what Carrie's been showing and these other loops and these other initiatives, what's coming from all these other one entity or any of the entities is not enough. This conversation is so important to have all of these participants coming from all directions to do what the region needs. And so we're doing the same thing here in Ventura County. San Luis Obispo County is getting there, but what you're doing in Santa Barbara County, it's really kind of inspiring to all of us. And just thank you for that.
You, Bill. And just in the spirit of honoring all the really active partners, I know I called out SBCAG and the county. I also really want to highlight that the Shumash have taken a leadership role in identifying those gap areas that aren't being covered by the state, by our priority areas in the broadband strategic plan, and are really leading the charge and filling in a lot of gaps. Particularly in the North County and in the unincorporated areas along the Santa Ynez Valley. So I just wanted to call out their leadership there too. And Carrie, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, that's fine. Bill, appreciate the kind words, and I think we're all working for the same thing. Our concern was the Golden State was going to miss some cities, Lompoc, the main part of the base, and actually getting out to Guadalupe through a loop, and that's what we're after right now with our report. So thank you guys.
So if there's nothing else from Santa Barbara County, I know we have a couple ISPs on here who submitted FFA apps, but it's okay if you don't want to speak up now. We'll move into San Luis Obispo County. I have Michael from our BCPC team. If you have anything you wanted to start out with, or should we kick it straight over to Annie from SlowCog?
I think Annie could probably summarize yesterday's meeting, but we did have a really good discussion on the FFA apps and a lot of applications for our area for San Luis Obispo County. So excited to see what that comes out looking like, but I think there was 19 total service areas applied for, so should be pretty good. But Annie, certainly can summarize our meeting yesterday.
Annie, we're not hearing you. See your mouth moving.
Going now?
Yep.
Perfect. Yeah, we had a good time at the digital equity roundtable meeting yesterday. Kind of one of the we heard from the county, which was great, and the ACP enrollment has been increasing over the months because they're of course tracking that, so that's super exciting. And then had a pretty good discussion on the FFA grant, of course, kind of tracking with where you guys are at today. One of the exciting things is we are lacking in providers up here. So we had it wasn't a huge amount, but we did have a pretty diverse amount of providers up here, which is exciting to see a little bit of competition going on. So super excited about that. And with the county update, they actually they had recently met with the 5 supervisors, and so kind of putting broadband back on their radar. Obviously, it's been on there for a while, so good to know that. And then one discussion that came up, which we are a little behind on, is the digital equity issue. So we're hoping we're having kind of some capacity issues and a little bit of monetary issues. So we're hoping with it being back on the supervisor's radar, they're kind of get that flowing again. So that's one of the things. I think the ACP enrollment's great. The infrastructure is going good, but that is one thing we need to work on a little bit. So looking forward to getting that going.
Thanks, Annie. And
Yeah,
I'll just go ahead, Michael.
I was just going to say the only other thing, the county is working on their broadband strategic plan.
Yes.
And looking towards the end of October where that will be released, and already have some opportunity zones. I think there's 28 opportunity zones identified in that. So that'll really help kind of bring some focus areas into their strategy.
Exactly. Thank you.
And what has happened, what I've observed in SLO County is, in the absence of a partner that is centering the digital equity work the way that it's happened in Ventura and Santa Barbara counties, Annie and the SlowCog team have, temporarily absorbed the role, right? For really bringing the infrastructure conversation into the digital equity conversation. And so it's a great, plug until it evolves, right? So kudos for stepping in and doing it.
It's been pretty interesting, and yeah, we're hoping to kind of get a little more momentum going.
Awesome. I see Josh on the call from City of SLO. Did you want to share anything? I know there was an FFA application that came out there from City of SLO.
Sure. We submitted an FFA application that we're hoping to come forward. It was, I think, exciting to see the level of applications that went through. I think we were all a little worried that there weren't going to be many, and so there were a bunch from both private and public, which was exciting. Obviously, we're oversubscribed the same way the other counties are, but I think that's a good thing overall for us to be able to demonstrate that there's a need in the county, and as other grant opportunities become available, we can continue to demonstrate that need. So we're hopeful that we'll get our grant awarded, but we know that that could be an interesting proposition. And so we'll kind of work together with the rest of the county as those things progress and see how we can best serve the county as a whole.
Hey, Josh. Anyone else? I see a few private partners that might want to share anything. Okay, in that case, we'll jump back into where we were. Last call, any roundtable discussion items, anything you want to share? Questions? Concerns, announcements, job openings? I don't know. Okay, we'll move forward. I'll give a quick digital equity update for the region. This is really strictly about ACP enrollments. This is not including other digital equity efforts around the county. We'll probably have a longer conversation about that either in November or December in sort of a year-end wrap up. Our ACP enrollments as of August, we always get the data about 30 days later, are improving. So it's fantastic work that folks are doing out there to do outreach, to share what the Affordable Connectivity Program is, to help households enroll. In both of our northern counties, the increase has been just over 2%. In Ventura County, about 3.5% increase. One of the major differences that I will continue to call out between Ventura County and our two counties to the north is Ventura County has really done some good work embedding ACP outreach and enrollments in some of their public services, such as social services, counseling for folks who are eligible. And, another opportunity for public participation is to share information about ACP in utility bills that go out for public municipal utilities that target or offer low-income subsidies. So there's some cool things that are happening in different pockets. Different municipalities are taking the charge on this. I know Lompoc and I think Guadalupe are both sending out ACP information in their water bills to eligible households that already receive a subsidy on their bill. So their numbers are increasing pretty incredibly as well. So we will continue to talk about best practices for ACP enrollments and share those out. There are ways for every single entity on this call to get involved in ACP enrollments to help provide that. I also would like to share, just to acknowledge that we're aware of it, there is conversation about the funding running out for ACP. I believe that it's on track to expire or be completely tapped out in first quarter of 2024. At the Broadband Consortium, we are engaging our federal representatives to say, we think this is important and we think you should continue to fund it. Along with some of our partners. If you so desire, we encourage you to reach out and share the impact that ACP has had on your community. If you need the exact numbers of eligible households or the exact numbers of folks who are enrolled, we'd be happy to share those with you. So just shoot a message to me and either Malika or I will get you that information. But any advocacy you can do will probably be heard and will be useful. There are also efforts at the state level to implement some sort of ACP program at the state level in case the federal program expires. Some of those include requiring state contractors to offer an affordable option. So if you want to have a contract with a public entity, you would need to also opt in to providing an affordable option or some sort of subsidy program for low-income individuals as well. The Broadband Consortium has been asked to partner with California Emerging Technologies Fund, CETF, in their FCC ACP outreach grant. We met with several organizations over the last 2 weeks to identify partners who can actually support the enrollment event themselves. We're looking to hold 8 enrollment events across the 3 counties. Each event would target 100 ACP enrollments. So 100 households that are eligible would be enrolled at each event. What we have learned from CETF, who has been gathering data for a year or so now, is that for every household that shows up and gets enrolled in ACP at an event, 8 other households are notified about it and they learn about it, and some of them enroll on their own. So it really has a ripple effect that is evident in overall enrollments. We had 2 info sessions. The target areas, we are required to find target areas in our 3 counties that have at least 5,000 eligible households in them. So we did some analysis, Malika crunched the numbers, and we identified areas. So we are hoping, we're targeting in San Luis Obispo County, we're targeting a Paso Atascadero event to serve both communities, a City of San Luis Obispo event. In Santa Barbara County, we're targeting a City of Santa Maria event and a City of Santa Barbara event, as well as an Isla Vista Goleta event, because we have to capture that 5,000 eligible households that could come and participate in this. In Ventura County, we are targeting the City of Ventura and Santa Paula region, and we're targeting Simi Valley in partnership with kind of hoping to lump in the surrounding areas, and then also Oxnard. So we have some CBO partners who have opted in and some who we're still talking to who will host those events. What we are asking of you on this call is when we share the calendar of events and we have a digital flyer, that if you have a network that you can share that information with so that it will reach the eligible households, we're asking you to do that, whether that is sending it out by email. If you have a text message system where you can notify folks that there's an enrollment event happening, we would really love your participation in spreading the word about these events. We hope to have our calendar posted by the beginning of November. And just in response to your question, Brian asked in the chat, do we have a sample letter supporting continued ACP funding? I believe we have a draft and I can send that out to you. So I'll see what I have, see what I can find, and get that over to you. Really appreciate that support.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. So we're going to get into our presentation for today, our guest presentation. We may not make the second discussion item on supply chain. We can table that for another time. But I wanted to leave plenty of time for talking about the BEAD funding, upcoming BEAD funding. We've been featuring little snippets of the requirements over the last few months. And today we're talking about the cybersecurity requirements for sub-grantees. It's Cybersecurity Month. And so we invited Dave Hagan from TPX to present about best practices that align with these BEAD requirements. So the final requirements for BEAD that NTIA is requiring states include in their initial proposals. Sub-grantees are required to have a cybersecurity risk management plan in place. The plan must reflect the NIST framework. Right now, that's volume 1.1. They have not updated the language. I understand that there's a volume 2 coming out, I think, or 1.2. Maybe Dave can clarify that. But right now, they're stating volume 1.1. There has to be a plan for a periodic review and update of the plan that's in place. And the plans have to be submitted to the state prior to the release of funds. So it doesn't have to be finalized before the application, but there has to be an acknowledgement, I think it's a checkbox actually, that says that you are going to comply with the cybersecurity requirements, and then the plan will have to be in place prior to the release of funds. Any changes are required to be submitted within 30 days. So if you are planning to request BEAD funding, you're going to want to review the NIST framework. You want to review your current plan. And if you don't have a current plan, you might want to convene an internal work group to create a plan and start aligning your practices with the requirements. And with that, I will hand it over to Dave Hagan, security evangelist. I think that's his title.
Sure.
That he self-assigned, right? Am I right?
All right.
At TPX, go ahead and I'll stop my share so that you can take the screen.
So do I got control now?
You're up. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So pretty much what you were just talking about, I'm gonna, follow on with that. So what you guys are concerned about, of course, is being able to be in compliance and perform the risk assessments that you need to have in everything. With the Cybersecurity Awareness Month, we were just going to touch on a couple of things in general, which is the reason they're making you follow these NIST guidelines, the reasons why there needs to be an ongoing process. And we see this with many industries. We work, we do all kinds of assessments, whether they're HIPAA or GAP or for banks or the Federal Trade Commission, for example. We've done a great job of taking the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act requirements that they put into the Federal Trade Commission safeguards and have requirements for anybody who's housing personal identifiable information that's non-public. And if you've got a certain amount of records, you have to go through a certain amount of compliance. And what we do with that, of course, is we put together a program. We call it a cybersecurity program, where we do these assessments for you, where we actually do an assessment, and I'll get into a little more detail on it, but assessment includes many pieces and components. But what you're going to see when the final regulatory comes out is there's probably an ongoing component to it. I like what you said about the checking the box. Quite often, it's like, well, wait a minute, we've got all these new regulations. It's going to take us a little time to do whatever it is to get there. One of the things that we did with the impending regulations that were going on with the safeguards rule, for example, they had a particular deadline. And so people signed up with us and we began the process. We like to use the term that they were in a defensible position because they were getting their, everything in order. But today, let me see here, click the mouse. We're going to talk a little bit about cyber threats, that risk management that we're talking about, how to mitigate cyber risk in your industries specifically, and then of course taking actions and having an action plan, because so many times people are getting ready to get ready and then they don't actually do it. And then we'll just have one more thing, and I'm going to come through this fairly quickly because I know that you guys we've already had a long meeting. So the understanding cybersecurity, hang on one second. Let me move this. So cyber threats, we all know they come in various forms. We're inundated with people talking about cybersecurity all the time, but phishing attacks, ransomware, the data breaches. We even have insider threats. People inside your company are stealing information, DDoS, malware, social engineering. You've got so many ways that people are able to breach your systems, unpatched systems. Something like 80% of the systems that are out there are patched, and there's some 20% that don't ever patch. But those that are patched, some 80%, they're about 7 or 8 major patches behind. And these days, with cybersecurity changing so rapidly, it's very important to be updating those patches and doing that. So the consequences of it, is all of the bad things that everybody tells you that's going to happen. So you really just that whole life cycle of cybersecurity attacks, the dwell time, for example, when somebody gets in your system, you know, 2 or 3 years ago, the dwell time was 273 days before the average that something would take effect. It might be in there doing some data mining, deciding which attack they want to do. Now, just a couple of years later, it's dropped from like 273 to 212. And the interesting sidebar there is that when it was 273, it took about 21 days for people to realize there was something going on in their system and try to react to it. Now it takes us 73 days on average. So they're acting quicker and we're acting slower, you know, in the world. So that's probably not a good thing necessarily. Risk management. So the risk management is really that part that the BEAD is talking about there, having a risk assessment. And typically when we sit down with the guidelines, and we will, you know, with the BEAD and come up with everything that they have, we don't just say, oh, that's a gap assessment, that's this. There's a lot of frameworks out there, a lot of rules and components that heat maps that we have to gauge things over. And we'll come up with, from those guidelines within BEAD, and craft the risk assessment that you need to be in compliance with for the funding. And those things that are in there are likely to be that there'll be an ongoing vulnerability and penetration scanning. You know, you do it once in the beginning, but you probably have a cadence of vulnerability scans twice annually, penetration scans once a year. And so there'll be a security program that you might need to put in place to show that you're in compliance. And then there's a repository for keeping those reports, making sure that your log files are being looked at. You should be using multi-factor authentication. The NIST guidelines are going to tell you that you need to. If there's log files that show that, you know, people are trying to log in but not using the multi-factor, those things get written to log files. Those things need to be reported upon. So what we can do is, of course, put a program together for that risk management process for you, identifying the risk and mitigating them. I mean, there's so many ways. A lot of people forget about Wi-Fi networks. You know, having strong access control and passwords for everything. Your Wi-Fi networks, you're going to want to segregate all of that traffic. You're going to make sure that you have guest traffic not touching anything that affects the systems that you have going on. There's a lot of just normal hygiene that, you know, obviously in a longer presentation we can get into, but implementing strong access control measures, you know, with the multi-factor authentication, training your staff to be security awareness proficient. That's actually a requirement for almost every compliance issue that we're seeing out there. For every cybersecurity insurance, are you all buying cybersecurity insurance? And if you're looking at it's not even a checklist anymore. A few years ago with cybersecurity insurance, they'd have a one pager with 10 boxes that you would check. Oh yeah, we're doing this, or we're gonna do this. And then the insurance company would either underwrite it or not for whatever amounts, you know, you're looking for and how much they want to charge. Now that document is more like a 10, 15 page document, and they require you to do the vulnerability scanning and penetration scanning and show them the reports that you're not as vulnerable as you know, those sorts of things. So having the ability to mitigate those risks is going to be very, very key, you know, for everything that you're doing. So you also have a lot of application software packages. You know, where does your data live really within your organization? Everybody used to have your data centers that you have, and you're putting stuff there. But now, guess what? A lot of stuff it's in somebody else's cloud. You know, so it's some kind of a hybrid where you have stuff at your office, stuff in your own data center, stuff in other people's cloud infrastructure, and those sorts of things. So, you know, you want to make sure that you're securing access to everything, that nobody can just get in with, you know, stealing a password, making sure, you know, maybe a little zero trust going on there. So at the end of the day, you are responsible for ensuring your customer data for one, but also just good business practice, all of your own data from being secured. So understanding your cloud environment, understanding your local environment, having the ability to actually restore that in the case of a ransomware, are you able to get your data together from a point in time before the ransomware attack? Are you able to virtually run that in the cloud within a certain reasonable period of time? Or do you have to come copy data from offsite sources and move it back together and go buy a new server? Because that one, you got to have all of that in place to do that. But to do that, you really have to develop a comprehensive cybersecurity action plan. You've got to have incident response plan for what am I going to do if I got the ransomware? What am I going to do if the once in a lifetime hurricane actually caused some damage in Southern California? And you've got to see what's going on and have a continuous plan of improvement and prioritizing, all of your security measures that you have there. So the big thing is you can't go it alone usually. I mean, we all have IT professionals working with us, whether they're software vendors or MSPs. In the case of cybersecurity, you're going to need some people with the cybersecurity chops to help you out. But at the end of the day, you're going to be forced to do a certain amount of assessments and things like that just to comply with the BEAD program. And so I know I've been talking and not letting you ask any questions. Again, I'm trying to be concise here, but are there any questions or anything that anyone might have? Am I still there?
Yeah, we're here. We hear you. Anyone have any thoughts or questions? No, this connects. Tim, I see you unmute.
All right, I'll stick my neck out here. And I need a little bit of help. When you were talking about stuff pertaining to server security, are you who's running these servers? The individual, like the county departments, the municipalities?
It could be in your case. Well, whoever, your business is what you need to protect. If you've got customers, that's up to them. So if you are a municipality and you've got servers, absolutely, you've got to protect those. And there's, depending upon if you're a municipality, there may be a whole bunch of other requirements. There's always this cross-compliance thing, but CJIS, for example, which is the criminal justice systems, if you've got police departments and jail systems and things like that, only certain people can have access to those things. So when we do a network design, we make sure that we segment that network off and only have certain privileged access for those people that are allowed to have access into those things, the proper credentials and things like that. But yeah, whatever data it is to support that city government, that broadband company, that oil and gas customer, that RV campground company, whatever it is, everybody has to protect their data, and everybody has certain application software that runs their business. Everybody actually has, like pretty much everyone, Office 365. So that piece of your business, if you've moved it to Office 365 in the cloud versus having it locally, it's actually up in the cloud. That data is not actually being backed up by Microsoft, by the way. Everybody kind of assumes, well, I'm in the cloud, they're backing it up. They're backing up their instances in case Microsoft goes down, San Diego fell over to Phoenix or whatever. But it's incumbent upon you, the IT people or business owners, to make sure that the data that lives within Microsoft's cloud environment, that would be your email files, that would be your OneDrives, that would be your SharePoint. You need to have a secondary cloud-to-cloud backup for that. And that's something that companies like us can help you with as well. But that's part of that cybersecurity risk plan. They're going to ask you, where does your data live? Is it protected? There's going to be some NIST guidelines around those things. And we're very used to working with those NIST guidelines and can help you with the reporting and get in compliance with that.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, definitely there's, you know, it's standard cybersecurity, but it's also so important just for having the proper hygiene and then having the ongoing documentation for it. And the fact that we're kind of being forced to do it for so many different reasons these days makes it cleaner. You know, everybody's getting on board with it. We didn't used to have airbags in cars or seat belts back in my day, but you know, those things have been good for us. So all of these things that people are asking us to do as far as risk assessments, but we can tailor those risk assessments to, usually there's a one-time component that costs a little more. What we do is we spread that out over a term, so it does not cost very much, you know, for somebody to get into the game. Sometimes people, oh my gosh, they'll talk to a security company and they'll be like, I didn't budget for that, you know. So that's something that we can help you to layer the playing field, you know, with those things as far as cost, spread them out over a 3-year term or whatever.
George, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, hi. Thank you. So I think the topic was BEAD and some of the requirements of the BEAD submission. And I have modified my career into being a chief information security officer, and I have a lot of training in cybersecurity coming from legacy telecom like David. And it's undergone quite a shift. But with BEAD, there's two ways to approach this, one being strategic and then the other being tactical. And I believe that the BEAD and the application for BEAD is concerned with a strategic approach and a compliance approach, that they want to make sure that there are requirements from the people submitting the applications, whether they're the government entity, whether they're a small provider ISP, that they have adhered to certain frameworks in alignment with the NIST 800 and the CSF. So in order to do that, having a baseline assessment to understand your risk profile is the most prudent way to be in compliance with the CSF or the 800. And I think, set aside from TPX's approach as a service provider, and I don't know if that's a free service or if it's a paid service, any submission for the BEAD has to state, and I believe there's an attestation, a self-compliance attestation based on the submission, that you're going to hold up your hand and swear on your heart that you're meeting these compliance obligations. And you have a policy in place to mitigate any risks that has been identified. And I believe that's the whole purpose here of the application.
You hit it dead on with the strategic versus tactical. The actual work to do the assessment is a strategic thing, but at the end of it, what falls out of it, it's like, if you don't have a firewall in place, and I know most people do, if you don't have certain things that are happening from a tactical standpoint, you can get those services. And in our case, it just so happens many of those services we could help you with. But the putting the program together to do an ongoing, to actually do the policies and procedures that you're familiar with that might come, you know, with the guidelines, there's probably 9 or 10 steps in there that need to be done. I'm not sure what the reporting basis is going to be there for BEAD. Is it like you get the, you know, is there an ongoing component to it or not? But potentially, if there is, you know, that's something, you know, that we would set up as a process, you know, an update, incident response plans being updated semi-annually or annually, whatever the BEAD requirements would actually say. I know NIST is wanting you to do that, but sometimes there's leeway with the actual timetables for some of the things. But you're spot on, tactical versus strategic.
I went ahead and put a couple links in the chat for people's reference. The NIST framework, just in case that's something you're not familiar with and you want to educate yourself on. There's a link there to kind of getting started with their framework. And then also the BEAD cybersecurity requirements. It really is a checkbox that's saying, yes, we will do these things. And then prior to receiving the funding, you have to actually have done them and be able to submit your plan to CPUC, who's going to be reviewing applications, or excuse me, who will have approved your application by that point. So yeah, it really is I promise I will do it, and then following through in order to actually receive the funds.
Yeah. Again, the term that we've been using with similar things is being in a defensible position. So we had somebody that actually was requested for an audit, and they just like signed up 2 days before, but we gave them the statement of work, and they looked at it and they said, okay, you're good. So they didn't have to do the audit because it showed the program that we were about to embark on for that customer. That was a FTC safeguard. So everything's different, but in principle, you know, when they're giving you a checkbox like that, yeah, you want to follow through. You don't want to say you're gonna do it. You don't want to be the gonna guy or the gonna gal, because you're going to get in trouble. So definitely, we're happy to help with these things, whether it's the strategic or even the tactical, you know, from that standpoint. But I just wanted to touch base with that, and again, just take this small window of time in your monthly meeting. I really love what you guys are doing. I love, you know, the mix consortium like this. It seen similar things in other areas, and it's very important to actually make stuff happen. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here.
You can take the screen back.
All right, and will. I'm going to make an executive decision and skip past the second discussion we had planned. We have about 15 minutes left, and rather than open up another topic, I'll remind you that it was talking about supply chain and the Buy America requirements. I'm happy to table that until November, because November we will have Gladys Papaladik from the NTIA on our call. She's agreed to join us, and we can decide to discuss supply chain unless there's other questions that folks want to ask her or engage NTIA in for our next meeting. We also, in our next meeting, are planning, so we're on track for this project, but we're planning to have an update to our own BCPC website that shows our current state assessment analysis. This is one of our CPUC deliverables for our broadband consortium grant, where we are putting together the current state assessment analysis for our region. And we will have a lovely map that visually represents, you know, where there is need in our region, but also where projects have been proposed, where projects are pending funding, and where projects have been funded, whether they've started or not. This will be a first draft of this map, and will evolve over the next year as we learn more about who's granted funding for which areas in our region. So we hope to see you next meeting in November. I also wanted to just call out that we are going to be sending out a survey before the end of the year to all of our BCPC stakeholders to ask you know, what are you finding valuable in our monthly meetings, in our newsletter? What would you like to see more of? And what can we do to support you in your efforts to deploy broadband and improve digital equity and close the digital divide alongside of us in our region. So look out for that as well. And with the 13 minutes left, we will gift it back to you for the rest of your day, 13 minutes of your life returned, or I will be happy to stay on, and I'm sure some of the team members can stay on to do a sort of office hour style conversation if you have questions for us. Otherwise, thanks for coming. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Shelby.